Hello, everyone, and welcome to FAA Safety Briefing Live for November and December. I'm Paul Prydecker.
And I'm Susan Parson.
As all of our programs, you're able to earn wings or AMT credit. And how do you do that, Susan?
Well, there are various ways to do it, but the easiest way is to click on the link there. There's a two-step process. It'll take you right to the place you need to go to take the course and or take the quiz, as the case may be, so that you can get wings and AMT credit. But you could also do, if you've missed something or looking for wings credit, you can also follow the link to the archived courses, and there's also a link to the print copy. So lots of options.
Very good. And I have to say, of course, that I'm happy to be with you here in Arizona.
I'm sure.
Where it's warmer than my home in Wisconsin. I struggle to keep my living area at maybe even ISO +1 or 2. So this is a lot better. So shall we get started?
Let's get going.
That's great. So this is always our front material about what FAA Safety Briefing Magazine is about. And lead us off, Susan.
Well, the goals right there are very clear. Raise awareness of FAA resources, explain safety and regulatory issues from the agency's perspective, and to encourage continued training, which is really important to both of us.
Absolutely.
And the departments over there, we've talked about this before, but with the departments, you have we have a specific mission for each one. So we try to stick to that and also keep it in accordance with the theme for whatever the issue is.
Well, let's talk about the theme for this. This is near and dear to our hearts because it's about how to get more people into not just being a pilot, but in all aspects of aviation. So as always, there's a clever title, Full Steam Ahead. I'm expecting that to turn into Full Steam Ahead with STEM.
It is, but there's a reason there's an A in there, which we will get to. So
what are some of the topics we'll hear tonight?
Well, what we've really focused on is a lot of what the FAA is doing to try to encourage science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and I'll go ahead and tell you it's the arts. So we've got how the FAA is launching students into an aviation career. We're looking at non-flying work in the aviation world, FAA industry collaboration. We meet Shasta Ways, who is a global. She's very
inspiring.
Very inspiring.
Yeah.
And then drones, because drones are a big part of the national airspace system these days.
Of course. So there's a change in the leadership at the FAA. Robert Carty now is the acting executive director of the Flight Standards Service. So
he is, and they're interviewing for the new Flight Standards Service director these days, I guess. So, but Rico is in charge right now, and this is a topic that's really important to him as well. He has a broad background, Air Force, airlines, all kinds of different things. But he has a deep interest in promoting STEM education. And you'll see on this page how important it is.
Well, the numbers are always surprising to me. I see our industry is 1.8 trillion in economic activity, 11 million jobs, and the other acronyms that we get are AVSED, which is.
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay. And what as large as the industry is, we often talk about how it's a small world in aviation because of all the connections we make from place to place, and it's a wonderfully connected industry, even though it is so large.
Well, and I'll go ahead and tell you right here, if you look at that third bullet, it's the FAA STEM. We know what STEM is, aviation and space education, because space is a really important part of it too.
And it's been going on for 60 years.
It's been going on for 60 years. The other thing I want to stress here is that part of what this issue is about is to try to encourage everybody, not just FAA employees, not just people, to encourage anybody really to help introduce young people to aviation and spark the enthusiasm that we've had all our lives.
Well, and his message is that anybody can be an aviation ambassador. anybody can promote aviation in whatever aspect they're in.
Absolutely.
So I have to tell you that I really like this next article.
Was
about
that fun?
It is fun, and it brings back a lot of memories.
Okay.
They talk about the fact that if you develop a passion for something early on, you are likely to, find a way to live that out. And the two things that brought to mind in my own upbringing when I lived in North Texas is that if my parents ever wanted to surprise me with a great weekend, we would jump in a car with a picnic lunch, drive down to Love Field in Dallas. That was long before DFW existed. And park under the approach light system for runway 13 and watch the planes come in all day long. And that was such a treat. And the other thing it reminded me of is, first of all, I can assure you that my dad was not a scientist. He was not into technology. He was not an engineer, and he was not into math either. But because of his time in the Air Force during the Second World War in the B-17 base in England, he sparked an interest in airplanes for me. So I decided to get creative one day and turn my bicycle into a P-51. And I did that by putting playing cards and clothespins on the spokes to make noise.
That must have been fun.
And then I also took the clothespins and I labeled them like mixture prop, throttle, magnetos, and things like that. So that was my first adventure in turning my bicycle into a P-51.
How have I never heard this story?
Well, there's more. By the time he taught me into B-17 for my bicycle, I had 4 times all of those things. And Mom all of a sudden wanted to know where all the clothespins were going.
That's funny.
So,
well, one thing we have in common, when I was a kid, we used to occasionally go to the Greensboro airport to the observation deck. But those were some of the ways that we were inspired to get into aviation. But the FAA's program, it talks about here are the 4 objectives: outreach to students, outreach to women, minorities, and underserved communities, collaborating, that's the partnerships, and optimizing our volunteer core of outreach ambassadors. So this program, it's nearly 100,000
students a year.
That's a lot. And if people are looking for resources, this is about supporting educators and counselors and parents. There's an adopt a school program. So there's there's so much material here in terms of resources if you don't know where to start.
Well, and in addition, there's some of the mainline airlines, United and American and Delta, all have their own programs where they are reaching out to not just college age, but even before that, to try to create an interest. And with the idea that if they come into those programs, there'll be financial assistance, which is helping to remove a barrier for the underserved communities. AOPA has programs, EAA has programs. There's, of course, a wealth of information on the FAA side about this. So many of, as you said, the partners and collaborators are part of this to serve the industry and to inspire a passion in individuals, to do this.
And it's great that everybody's working together.
So we talked about this young woman who has really done some amazing things around the world in a bonanza in many countries. And her purpose, of course, was to do outreach to school-age children to promote aviation.
Well, and especially to women. I was not the lucky one of the staff who got to conduct this interview. That was Tom Hoffman. And when he was done, he came back and said, "Oh, this was such a joy to do. It's such fun to talk to her." So I look forward to meeting her in person myself sometime. No, she discovered that her passion was to inspire people into their own passions, not necessarily aviation, but obviously that's something that she's particularly working on. So she's done the Earth Rounder. She started the Women's Ambassador Program. And then her work now is with Dream Soar, which is specifically about promoting STEM outreach in countries around the world.
She was at AirVenture last year, giving some presentations and starting some new initiatives. She started a podcast. In the article, basically she did 25,000 nautical miles.
Mhm.
She reached out to 12,000 children and did 30 stops in various countries. And, the very cool part about this is when we do things like this, I think about giving somebody a ride, the Young Eagles program, however we want to engage with people in the aviation industry. You never know what seed will get planted and when that seed will turn into something.
Well, and God only knows how many seeds that she has planted and continues to plant through everything that she's doing. So the story is really fun. I hope she writes a book someday.
I'm sure she's got some material.
I'm sure she does.
Maybe you should offer to edit it for her.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. And the other part of this, of course, is there are so many opportunities that are just not about piloting. And this article, kind of highlights 3 of them.
Well, it does. And we interviewed 3 different people. One was Mike Dunkley, who was the 2021 National Aviation Technician of the Year, because he talks about, all the things that aviation maintenance technicians have to do. And then our readers might be familiar with Sarah Patton. She has been, she's done podcasts and broadcasts for AOPA, but she's also written for us and been in the magazine quite a lot. Pilot, flight instructor. I think last time I saw her, she's working on building an airplane, lots of different things, but her day job is as an air traffic controller.
In one of the busiest chunks of airspace we have.
That we have. And then we have Peter Sachs, who was featured in one of our earlier magazines.
We've talked about him before. He's
everything
deals with the FAA UTM, and the UTM is another one of these acronyms that has an acronym embedded in it. So the UAS traffic management system.
So yeah, he's been he has a background as a journalist. He worked as a controller. He's done a lot of different things, but now he is deeply involved in the drone world, and it's very so there's so many opportunities there. These are just a few.
Well, and the interesting part too is we've often seen when you have your FAA faces. We'll talk about the featured gentleman later in the program, but the one thing I'm always interested in is, for example, Peter Sachs. He's heading up the drone air traffic management system, but he started out as an air traffic controller. Right. So people within the FAA seem to kind of approach things from an interdisciplinary standpoint, and they're able to move around and take advantage of some of the latest technology.
That's exactly right. So again, STEM brings lots of opportunities. This is another one. This was checklist, which the purpose of this one is to talk about FAA resources, but also, and so this is a little bit more about the FAA STEM AvSed program. There are links in the article to places that you can go, but the fact is, and this is just building on the previous slide, STEM education promotes a wide range of aviation opportunities. So we talked about ATC, but people may not think about electrician, engineer, obviously. You might think about that, but ground crew, mechanic, pilot, safety inspector, if you decide to come to work for the FAA at some point, sales and service for the airlines, or tech ops, as we call it.
Well, and all the supporting avionics.
Oh, absolutely.
All the supporting avionics companies, everything related to making, the entire system work. In Madison, I had the occasion to go to an FAA facility for something kind of unrelated to this, but it was the systems center for the FAA, and I didn't really know what that meant. But when I went in to do my business there, I said, "So you guys aren't associated with the tower, but you're at the Madison airport?" And the person in charge said, "Well, yeah, we hire all the people who go around and deal with ground-based navigation systems all throughout the state of Wisconsin, keeping the ILSs going and the VORs. So just, so many opportunities."
Indeed.
This is all about maintenance training. And the thing that struck me about this is on the FAA site, and others as well. So many courses available for maintenance certification, education, re-education, recurrent training. But the thing that keeps surfacing in so many of these discussions is courses related to safety and risk. And we talk about safety and risk in flying all the time, but it's equally important in the maintenance world. So the safety team is doing such a good job putting together these types of courses.
Well, they are, and it's really important on the FAST team side that the Wings is the program for pilots, but there's the AMT Awards program, and that it is hugely. We don't want to favor one over the other because they're both obviously so very important. You can't fly airplanes without having somebody who can build them and fix them.
No, for sure, and they take their job seriously. At the bottom, Absolutely. It talks about the mechanic's creed: safety and lives of others are dependent upon your skill and judgment. So how true that is. But I'm always noting how the theme of risk management is coming across Constantly. So many disciplines. So this was interesting. This is your article.
It is.
And it's the article, I will tell you folks, is a little bit different than the content here because you talk about some of your earlier frustrations, say, with the testing process.
Well, one of the things that the FAA has done a lot in the last dozen years or so has been to work more collaboratively with stakeholders, with the aviation community, because there's no way that the FAA can have all the expertise, and there's no way that the FAA can be as current as somebody who is on the front lines of flight instruction or anything else. So yeah, I start out by talking about my frustration with the quote unquote written test.
At that time it was written.
At that time it was written, and all of the things and how we started getting together with stakeholders to transform the practical test standards into the airman certification standards. But then we've gone on to work with the community in other ways. Not too long ago was the Designated Pilot Examiner Reforms Working Group, which has submitted its report, and the FAA is working on that. And then we worked with the community in the drone area with the Recreational UAS Safety Test, which leads to the TRUST acronym.
Well, the thing I enjoyed about your story was your frustration with some of the questions on the written test.
Yes.
That were maybe of no practical importance to the sort of flying you might be doing. And you brought up things which I've heard in various training scenarios myself. Well, you just need this for the test, and then you can forget it.
Right. I hated that.
And that's having, taught in the airlines, we always tried to avoid that. Your comment about having to learn about ADF, I mean, that was another one.
Well, certainly fixed card, ADF. Oh, goodness.
When the angle of incidence equals the relative bearing, you're on course, that kind of stuff. I have to say that right now, if somebody told me I was going to fly a NDB approach somewhere, I would look as quickly as I could for the transponder and squawk 7700.
Probably you should.
And just say, let's just get the emergency over with now.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, but the key to what you're saying is, especially with the ACS and with rewriting so many of the questions to turn them into the knowledge test, it's been an industry collaboration with academia as well.
Right. The industry doesn't participate except for it's actually academic members who selected ones participate in drafting questions, but everything that our stakeholders are doing is informing more meaningful questions.
Very good. So this is a fun little snapshot of 3 individuals who are involved in the FAST team. I happen to know Karen Kalashek quite well because she just was recently elected chair to NAFI, National Association of Flight Instructors, where I'm president, so we work together quite a lot. But she's also a FAST team participant. a DPE and does a lot of work outside.
Yeah, she was the FAST team representative of the year a couple of years ago, as I recall.
Yes.
So we've got some examples here of people on the safety team who work in different areas, as you'll see here. But the point is that there are so many people who volunteer as FAST team representatives, and they are part of the community, but they encourage the community to view safety as important. They, in many cases, they provide counseling on issues. They deal with specific subjects, and they do what we're really trying to do here: promote continual training through Wings, the AMT, but also just through working with people in the community.
Well, the gentleman in the center, Vic Moss, is all about drones and being a safety rep for drones. And then Bill Hopper is does quite a bit with helicopters. The one thing that Karen said in the article is that the FAA is perceived to be just a kind of a large organization that's maybe a little bit out of reach, but that the FAST team reps help bring that down to just a one-on-one personal level of interaction, which I think is a very good point.
A good point.
Yeah. So we were talking about drones, and there's several ways that people can get involved. I don't know if it was in this article or another one. There's 1 million drones that are registered.
That's a lot.
I mean, every time we talk about drones, it seems like the population of them is just increasing. But you can take a test. You can, if you want to have aspirations of doing more, then you need to get a certificate under Part 107. And again, it's a lot about all the opportunities that are available. I mean, just this evening we were looking at the local news, and they were talking about using drones for power line inspection and power pole inspection. The number I remember was that they can, in Arizona here, they can expect 140 poles per day compared to 40 the old-fashioned way, which was somebody going up with their spikes on going up the pole to view it. So many opportunities.
Indeed. And this shows where it gives you an idea where to start, how to use the skills, and just some of the opportunities to use them. I thought that Go Drone or Go Home was pretty fun. As a subhead. You don't need a degree. There's more, and just as the point as we made with other parts of the aviation industry, if you're getting into drones, there are lots of positions that don't involve flying or building them.
Well, the technology,
certainly. The support is pretty significant too.
And the author, your social media person, Paul Cianciola, he made a comment in the article that even if you're just starting out doing this for what you think is fun, log it.
Oh yeah, because it shows the experience, and if you
that if you do go on to something more commercially oriented, you have some record of experience.
Exactly.
So I thought that was a great idea.
Besides, pilots log everything, right?
That's true. That's true. Yes.
Right.
So one of the big things about STEM is getting into the underserved communities all around the country and encouraging participation in the industry. And drones are one way that people have been attracted because there's reduced barrier to entries for drones compared to other things. But it's such an important part of this program to get into schools, let students know what's possible, and be a mentor for them.
Well, and this talks about some of the how the strategic approach that the FAA has taken, reaching out to schools, engagement resources, STEM aviation programs like Adopt a School that we mentioned earlier. And drones are now included in that curriculum, and we use the photo to illustrate that. We talked in a previous issue about the U.S. Collegiate Training Initiative, and then we have STEM education a lot through the FAST team. So lots of different opportunities here.
Do you have a drone certificate?
I do not.
I don't either. Maybe,
I think we need to fix that.
Maybe we could fix that.
I think we need to work on that.
Start studying for the test. Right?
There you go. Well, notice in a previous slide, you can't fail the trust test.
I saw that part. Yeah.
I thought you might like that. Okay.
And the other interesting part here, this is again more about, it's not just about helicopters, but it's about the FAA's role in providing helicopter pilots to provide STEM awareness and education.
Well, and they're going after fourth graders at select schools to inspire them into it. And I'm not sure why fourth graders were picked, but I mean, that's a perfectly good age. That's,
yeah.
But they're identifying it's to give students an idea that, yeah, you could fly helicopters, and here's some of the careers, as you see in that last bullet. Here are some of the career opportunities you could have: police, firefighting, sightseeing, radio and TV, everything.
Medical transport, agriculture, of course, and of course military. So the article does a nice job of talking about how many FAA employees are actively involved in the vertical helicopter world and are taking that to the STEM world as well.
This is somebody I've worked with in a variety of things, and I think that the photo there and the little caption underneath it, "A love for aviation has always been in Jim Bro's blood." I see that he joined the CAP at an early stage. He's done a lot of different things, but he's been with the FAA, and he's the person I think of for the STEM AVSED program. I worked with him when we did a symposium on expanding aviation careers several years ago, and he's quite passionate about everything. The article talks a lot more than we have the bullets for here about all of the background he has and all what he's doing. But I think that last sentence is a good one. Don't expect people to come to you. Go out, be a role model, share your passion. And as he puts it, it sounds simple, but it can make a huge impact. So he lives that.
Well, and I think that's a really good message, because we've had a lot of discussions about diversity in the industry, and one of the challenges is just making young people in inner city schools aware that this is even a realm of possibilities. And it's clear that Jim is advocating and reaching out.
He is.
Forming partnerships with cities, with schools, and spreading the word.
Absolutely.
You always have fun articles about this. So this is yours. It's about the art part.
This is post-flight. Everybody talks about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I argued a lot, not just for the title of the magazine, Full Steam Ahead. I argued that we should talk about the A part, which is the arts. Tends to get neglected, but it was kind of interesting when we were clearing this article, because we never print anything that multiple people don't see. Mm-hmm. One of my colleagues in maintenance says, oh, I love this article, because he and I both were in many ways brought into aviations. And that's kind of the next to the last bullet there. Arts can be a portal to aviation, just as STEM can: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Because it was books and stories and everything, art about aviation, that got me interested.
And since you're an Arizona person, there's the whole story of the Phoenix, and I see
I use the,
and you have some Phoenix artwork around.
I do,
but it's a good analogy. I've looked at your list, and I have a lot of those books, a lot of those movies, but the one that you left off, which is always my favorite, is 12 O'Clock High.
Oh, goodness. How could I have done that?
So,
well, this would be your opportunity, because we have a link in there where you can click to let us know if there are other books, podcasts, films, movies. This was just intended to be a representative list, but if you got favorites that aren't on there, speak up.
Well, it's one of my favorites, and my dad and I used to watch it if it were to come on, one of the movie channels years ago. And the important part for me was we would see aerial footage of B-17s, from the Second World War, and he would say, well, I was in that airplane, or that
Right.
was on my base. So I was always, inspired by
That's
that.
fun.
Yeah, it was cool. So 12 o'clock high.
12 o'clock high. I got it.
I'll send you a note. So Susan Northrup, who is the new federal air surgeon, has really done a nice job here about certification of medicals, and that there's more than one path.
Well, there's more than one path, and this was about letting people who are interested in getting into aviation through STEM or STEAM, either one, that there's the medical, quote unquote. We all talk about the medical, but here's what your options are. And the bullet here: some activities, ultralights, gliders, balloons, don't require a medical certificate at all. Basic med is an alternate path. But she also talks about the fact that, most pilots can get class 1, 2, or 3, special issuance, statement of demonstrated authority. And she also explains what they call khaki conditions AMEs can issue. So it's a very informative article in just one page. A lot of good stuff in there.
Well, it is. And in previous issues that she's been a contributor of, she's very clear about saying their goal is to get to yes.
Yes.
And as this article points out, there are several ways. I didn't actually know about the class 1. I mean, I typically get first class medical, but you have to be a senior AME to do those. AMEs who are not in that classification can give 2 and 3. You work out basic med through your own physician, through some paperwork and some training. But again, the special issuance and sodas are another mechanism to yes. So, and then that was followed up very nicely by,
what to expect. This is,
pilot error.
There you go.
There we go. Is what to expect in an exam.
And this was by one of the medical staff, and he kind of gives some details about what you need to do. Have all your reports in order, what the aviation medical examiner does. He talks more about if you have a potentially disqualifying condition, here are some of the options that you have, color deficiency, etc. And he also stresses that the FAA's goal is to authorize as many applicants as possible, and that 99% are approved. So that's really good.
And the other part of it is, as so many things with the FAA, it's about paperwork. If you have your paperwork in order from the beginning, that will make things a lot easier. He quotes a number that said, sometimes they have to deny an application, but often that's due to mainly missing information and paperwork. So I think everybody is on to the Med Express program, which is, a web-based program to put all of our information in. And the system actually works quite well. I think that, that it's where mentoring needs to come in, because when a new person comes into an FBO or, a school and is interested in flying, early on, somebody needs to have that conversation about, well, you're going to need this, and this is what to expect. And if you have any conditions that, we might need to pay attention to, it's best to bring them up. So I always thought that, that was one of the first things a flight instructor should do with a student, is just kind of bring up these issues.
Well, and the advocacy groups have a lot of information like that too. Information as well as, some do's and don'ts.
Sure. The news roundup in this magazine is often called ATIS, and there's several things here that are interesting. If we went to the second bullet point, it's
Tips for speeding it up. Yeah.
Susan Northrup has a, is it a podcast?
Well, actually, it's a short video on YouTube. Okay. And I think they're intending to make them monthly. There've been a couple so far, but it's called the Pilot Minute. And I sent her a note after this first one, said, love the airplane, which she flies off of this runway at the end.
Nice.
And she says, yeah, that's my backyard. And I said, well, you can't believe how jealous I am.
Perfect.
But there we go.
And the SAFO is about ways to make visual approaches safer. And there's a lot of information in the SAFO about using the technology on the airplane. If you're instrument rated, just request an approach. Sort of some common sense operational tips. People think that, a visual approach is, well, it's easy. It's visual. We can see. It shouldn't be a big problem. But when I was in the airline training world, we would put people in the simulator, of course, for numbers and numbers of sessions. They would earn their type rating, and then the next step would be IOE, or initial operating experience. And the feedback from the check airman was almost always, well, they can fly the airplane well, or they know how to do an approach. But if ATC just turns them loose and says you're clear for the visual, then it all kind of falls apart.
They don't know what to do. Right?
And of course, the simulators are limited by how you can teach visual approaches, because first of all, you can only see about 180 degrees. So once you go past the airport, you can't see. So it was amazing how much time our check airmen spent doing visual approaches in the 121 world. And that was about 90% of our clearances.
Yep.
So
another thing that I wanted to point out in here, the Learn to Turn program, I think that one is created by Rich Stoll, who was the spin doctor. That's one of the things he has been known for. And he created this program that has been made widely available for free, and it's all about trying to promote safety. So this particular version of ATIS, which is our aviation news roundup, as it says, is intended to help promote that, tell you how to get it. Well, and it's one of those things that he does such a good job talking about it that you're going to learn something. Turning an airplane, we all know how to do it mechanically, but learning it about what's actually going on and what could happen if it's not quite right is excellent information. The laser thing is still in the news, still troubling. I still read reports of laser strikes. So do we. Just right. Occurring. And the best thing to do is first, don't look. But the second part, of course, is report it to air traffic control and be as specific as possible, because that's how a lot of these cases are resolved. And they do go hunt, and they have done enforcements against people who do that. I don't think it was my last official day of flying for 121. It might have been the next to the last day, but I was on an approach into O'Hare, and it was evening time, and green started illuminating in the cockpit. Dear. And I told air traffic control, and they immediately knew the area where I was. But then they immediately issued warnings to all the following pilots, saying, laser strike reported at such and such a fix or such and such a location, right, to give people a warning. Very good. And then on the sustainable aircraft technology, I think that program was called CLEAN. It's another acronym for. I believe it is. Yes. Okay. Safety enhancement topics. So these are for November and December. November is over-reliance on information. December is performance monitoring. But we also wanted to make people aware that we've got this FAA podcast. The FAA has gotten really big on social media and a lot of different things. The magazine, but also the slide, gives you the link to get to the safety enhancements. And under the arrow up there, the podcast, you can see how to get to the podcast. Well, it's great. And the November installment of that is over-reliance on automation. That is such a current topic in so many discussions. And I'll be the first to admit that I love automation. I love the autopilot. It's great. But as an instructor, my goal is not only to teach people how to use the automation, but also how to recognize when it's not working correctly. And then, of course, the mitigation for that is turn it off, don't diagnose, assume manual control, and then go figure it out later. But it's with all of our technically advanced aircraft, it's fun to push the buttons and manage the automation until it's not. Well, I've done a lot of articles over the years about technology and various aspects of technology, and almost every single one I get a lot of pilots and especially instructors saying, I'm going to make everybody read this because it's all about over-reliance on automation. I think some of the words from some of those articles might have ended up in that safety enhancement.
Very good.
How to reach
Feedback.
us? Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of different ways. We have our Twitter stream at FA Safety Brief. You can reach our mailbox, which is checked at least, I think it's pretty much daily because I do get, we get things. We print things in form unless people have specifically asked us not to. But we're also getting information through some of the other social media, which we'll talk about in a slide or two.
I think maybe
not quite the next one.
Not quite.
So you can find us on the FAA website, free download in PDF, mobile-friendly links to archived issues. And you'll notice here, I did the screenshot a little bit differently this time. We have the links to the archived issues, but our current articles, they are also formatted for medium. So you can click on one of those pictures or the title there and just read one of the articles from that particular magazine, whatever's interesting. And of course, you can follow us on social media and you can subscribe to the print edition.
So you have a social media director who does an outstanding job.
Yeah, we've done a lot of
some amazing numbers here.
Yeah, and these may even be higher since I first created this. So we've been on Twitter with more than 73,000 followers. There's a Facebook, a GA safety group. The first rule of the FACE Club program is the compliance program. It's all about, sharing information in a non-threatening environment. And we have people asked to be part of it. It is very strictly moderated, so no yelling, name calling, that sort of thing. 15,000 members already. GA YouTube playlist, and you see our top video. Not all of that is safety briefing, but we obviously promote that. And we have the Medium blog on the FAA and Instagram stories. So lots of different ways to get our content, even if you don't get the magazine.
And we usually wrap up with a reminder about wings, but I wanted to go back to the ways to get the magazine. All of these are archived. There's a link to the archives. And every time we look at the introductory slides that come up before we come on, we see all these issues that we've done this program about. I think we decided we're past 25. We're up to 26 or something 27 like that. Yeah. So if you are looking for wings credit and you didn't complete them on some of the other programs or other courses, you can still go back, access the magazine, get caught up on wings, and we go through again how we're going to do that. So
very easy to do.
So this is January, February.
It is.
I've noticed.
Well, it's January.
Yeah. And the next issue?
So the next issue is on aerospace medicine. And I'm not sure the print copy's out yet. We had a supply chain issue with paper, or the printer did, but the online issue is available. And this is every few years we work with the medical staff to do a special issue on aerospace medicine. And Dr. Northrup and her team were really wonderful to work with us on this one. So I'm really excited about it, and we'll look forward to presenting it later this month or in early February. We'll get a notice out to everybody for our next broadcast. So we will indeed. So stay tuned for that. So as always, it's a pleasure to work with you, and I'm glad we're getting caught up here, and we'll look forward to a good year. Indeed. See you next time. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your interest, and stay safe.